Whenever I meet current students or prospective students, because I now work as a professor at Trinity, I always, when I'm introducing myself, mention that I'm a member of the class of 1992. I've been teaching here now for 11 years, and telling people my class year gets a different reaction now than it did when I started working here. 11 years ago, when I told people that I was from the class of 92, they would instantly say, "Oh, you're really young, you know, you're pretty close to us in age." Now I get a rather different response, sometimes bordering on awe, as students or prospective students realize that they were infants and toddlers when I was in college. That's only going to get worse, I think, as the years go on. But I still think it's important to give that time marker, because it's sort of like an address in the years of Trinity's history, right? That's the time that I inhabited this place as a student. And as I think about what was particular about that time, a couple of interesting things that are somewhat different from now strike me in my imagination. One is that, of course, Trinity was a lot smaller then than it is now. We had about 500 students when I was a student here. Now, even with 1,200 students now, we're by no means a large institution, but there's a real difference. So with 500 students, it was an intensely intimate place, like a tiny town where you know everybody and everybody knows your business. One of the great things about that was in and out of the classroom, the kinds of relationships that you could have with other students and with professors. A lot of my education took place not just in the classroom, but in Professor John Rosa's office, which I later came to inhabit as my own office when I came back here to work. John and his colleagues had a constant sort of freewheeling philosophy seminar going on in the office. Whenever they weren't in class, Michael DeVries and Dick Cole and George Pearson and Brad Breams and others from up and down the hall in Vandervelde Hall would be sitting on the couch and on the various chairs in John's office talking. A lot of joking and making fun of each other and telling funny stories about students, but also woven in and out through that were mentions of what they were reading, what they were thinking about, how they put the world together in terms of the ideas that made up their careers and their callings as professors. And it was in that setting that from sophomore year on, I became a departmental assistant in the philosophy department, and I had a key to John's office, and I hung out in that freewheeling philosophy seminar. It was a real privilege to do that. But it was in that I learned to start speaking the language of philosophy. As I listened to these older generation folks speak that language in a kind of supple way that wasn't just confined to the classroom. That was a real gift. The other thing that made that possible was not just our small size, but our rather different technological situation from today. Not every professor had a computer on his or her desk. In fact, when I came in the fall of '88, I was sort of an oddball because I brought my own personal computer to the dorm. That was a strange thing in those days. But professors shared computers, and the internet didn't exist, at least in a public way, and there was no email. And so there was a lot of time to share each other's space, to share each other's stories. It was a smaller world, and I'm grateful for the changes now that we have information at our fingertips. But I also am glad for the time when I came up here at Trinity, where we met and talked to each other in lots of ways that are harder to experience now. But we keep finding new ways now to create that space that doesn't happen spontaneously. I'm Aron Reppmann, and I'm a troll.